Right now, someone is occupying your mind who shouldn't be there. Someone who has caused you pain, confusion, or heartbreak is living rent-free in your mental space, dictating your emotions, controlling your thoughts, and stealing your energy. I know this because I've been there. We've all been there. That moment when you realize you've given someone so much power over your inner world that you've forgotten who you are without their validation, their attention, or their approval. Today, I'm going to share with you 10 profound lessons that will transform how you approach relationships, how you protect your energy, and most importantly, how you reclaim your emotional freedom. These aren't just concepts I've read in books or theories I've heard from others. These are battle-tested truths that emerge from the depths of human experience, from the moments when we're forced to choose between our peace and our attachment to people who no longer serve our highest good. The first lesson I want you to understand is that emotional attachment is not love. I know that sounds controversial. I know it challenges everything you've been taught about caring for someone. But hear me out. When you're emotionally attached to someone, you're not loving them for who they are. You're loving them for what they represent, what they provide, or what you hope they'll become. You're loving the version of them that exists in your imagination, not the reality of who they actually are. Love is freedom. Love is acceptance. Love is allowing someone to be exactly who they are without needing them to change, without needing them to validate you, and without needing them to complete some missing piece of your identity. Attachment, on the other hand, is fear-based. It's rooted in the terror that without this person, you'll somehow be less than whole. It's the belief that your happiness depends on their presence, their choices, or their feelings toward you. When you're attached, you suffer when they're absent. You suffer when they don't respond to your messages quickly enough. You suffer when they choose someone else, when they move on, when they change, or when they simply don't meet the expectations you created in your mind. But when you truly love someone, their happiness becomes more important than your attachment to them. You want what's best for them, even if what's best for them doesn't include you. This distinction is crucial because it's the foundation of everything else we're going to discuss. You cannot begin to emotionally detach from someone until you recognize the difference between love and attachment, and you honestly assess which one is driving your behavior. Most of the time, what we call love is actually attachment disguised in beautiful words and noble intentions. The second lesson builds on this foundation. You are not responsible for other people's choices, reactions, or emotions. This might be the most difficult truth for you to accept, especially if you've spent years believing that you could somehow control or influence how others treat you through your actions, your kindness, or your devotion. I spent years believing that if I was just good enough, patient enough, understanding enough, or loving enough, I could make someone choose me, stay with me, or treat me the way I deserved. I thought that by being perfect, I could create perfect relationships. What I discovered was that perfection in relationships is impossible, because relationships involve two independent human beings, each with their own wounds, fears, desires, and free will. You cannot love someone into loving you back. You cannot sacrifice yourself into being valued. You cannot control someone's feelings by controlling your own behavior. This doesn't mean your actions don't matter or that how you treat people is irrelevant. It means that ultimately every person will make their choices based on their own internal compass, their own healing journey, and their own capacity for connection at any given moment. When you accept this truth, something magical happens. You stop taking other people's behavior personally. You stop interpreting their choices as reflections of your worth. You stop trying to be something you're not in order to earn something that should be freely given. You start focusing on what you can control, your own actions, your own growth, your own responses, and your own choices. This leads us directly to the third lesson. Your worth is not determined by how others treat you or whether they choose to stay in your life. This is where most people get stuck. They've unconsciously outsourced their self-esteem to other people's opinions, behaviors, and choices. They measure their value by how quickly someone responds to their messages, how often someone calls, how much attention they receive, or whether someone chooses them over other options. But your worth was established long before you met this person who's causing you pain. Your value doesn't fluctuate based on external circumstances. You are inherently valuable simply because you exist, because you have the capacity to love, to grow, to contribute, and to experience the full spectrum of human emotion. No one can take that away from you unless you give them the power to do so. The people who don't recognize your worth aren't the people meant to be in your life. The ones who leave, who choose others, who don't appreciate what you bring to the table, are simply not your people. This isn't a rejection of you as a person. It's a mismatch of what you offer and what they're capable of receiving or valuing at this point in their journey. When you internalize this truth, rejection stops feeling like a verdict on your character and starts feeling like redirection towards something better aligned with who you are. Dismissal stops feeling like abandonment and starts feeling like protection from connections that would ultimately drain your energy and diminish your light. The fourth lesson might challenge everything you believe about relationships. Sometimes loving someone means walking away from them. We've been conditioned to believe that love means fighting for someone, never giving up, and sticking around no matter what. We've romanticized the idea of unconditional love to the point where we think it means accepting unacceptable treatment, tolerating disrespect, or remaining in situations that harm our mental health and emotional well-being. But real love sometimes requires difficult choices. Sometimes loving someone means recognizing that the dynamic between you is toxic, that neither of you can be your best selves in this connection, or that continuing to engage is preventing both of you from finding healthier, more fulfilling relationships. I've learned that some people bring out the worst in us not because they're bad people, but because the chemistry between you creates patterns that neither of you can break while remaining connected. You might find yourself becoming jealous, controlling, desperate, or manipulative in ways that don't reflect who you truly are. They might become distant, cruel, inconsistent, or emotionally unavailable in ways that don't reflect their capacity for love with someone else. When you recognize these patterns, staying is not noble or loving, it's self-destructive and ultimately harmful to both parties. Walking away becomes an act of love, both for yourself and for them. You're giving both of you the opportunity to heal, to grow, and to find connections that bring out your highest selves rather than your deepest wounds. This doesn't mean you stop caring about them or that the love disappears. It means you care enough about both of your journeys to stop participating in something that's preventing you from evolving into who you're meant to become. The fifth lesson centers on understanding that closure is not something someone else gives you, it's something you give yourself. How much time have you spent waiting for an apology that never came? An explanation that would never satisfy you? Or a conversation that would somehow make everything make sense? How much energy have you invested in trying to get someone to acknowledge their role in your pain or to validate your version of events? I understand the desire for closure. We want to understand why things happened the way they did. We want our pain to be acknowledged. We want some sense of resolution that allows us to move forward with peace. But here's what I've learned. The closure you're seeking from them will never be as powerful or as healing as the closure you can create for yourself. Internal closure is often unsatisfying because it's filtered through someone else's perspective, their level of self-awareness, their capacity for accountability, and their own emotional wounds. The person who hurt you might not even understand how they hurt you. They might not be capable of the insight or empathy required to give you the acknowledgement you're seeking. They might be too defensive, too proud, or too damaged to offer you the healing conversation you imagine. But internal closure is entirely within your control. It's the decision to stop waiting for someone else to write the final chapter of your story together. It's choosing to create your own narrative about what happened, what you learned, and how you'll use this experience to become wiser, stronger, and more discerning in the future. Closure is forgiving them, not because they deserve it, but because carrying resentment hurts you more than it hurts them. It's accepting that you may never understand their motivations, and that's okay, because understanding them isn't necessary for your healing. It's recognizing that some people come into your life to teach you lessons, not to stay forever, and the lesson is complete, whether they acknowledge it or not. The sixth lesson involves recognizing that your emotional patterns are often more about your past than your present. The intensity of your attachment to someone who isn't right for you, the difficulty you're having letting go, the way this relationship has triggered your deepest fears and insecurities. These reactions often have roots that go much deeper than your current situation. Maybe this person reminds you of a parent who was inconsistently available, and your attachment to them is really your inner child trying to finally win the love that was never guaranteed. Maybe their rejection triggers the same abandonment wound that was created years ago when someone else left you feeling unworthy of consistent love and attention. Perhaps your fear of losing them isn't actually about them at all. Maybe it's about your deep-seated belief that people always leave, that you're too much or not enough, that you're fundamentally unlovable, or that you'll never find anyone who truly sees and values you. These are the stories we tell ourselves based on past experiences, and we unconsciously seek out relationships that confirm these narratives. When you can separate your past wounds from your present situation, everything changes. You start to see that your intense reaction to this person isn't necessarily because they're so special or because what you had was so unique. It's because they've activated unhealed parts of you that are crying out for attention and resolution. This awareness is liberating because it means your healing doesn't depend on this specific person or relationship. The wounds existed before they came into your life, and they'll continue to exist until you address them, regardless of whether this person stays or goes. But once you identify and heal these deeper patterns, you'll find that your attachments become healthier, your relationships become more balanced, and your emotional reactions become more proportionate to actual circumstances rather than past traumas. The seventh lesson is about understanding that detachment doesn't mean you stop caring, it means you stop suffering. There's a beautiful space that exists between caring about someone and being emotionally dependent on them. This space is where true love lives, where peace exists, and where you can maintain connection without losing yourself. Many people avoid detachment because they think it means becoming cold, uncaring, or indifferent. They believe that if they stop suffering over someone, it means they never really loved them in the first place. But this couldn't be further from the truth. Emotional detachment is not about building walls around your heart or shutting down your capacity for love. It's about loving from a place of wholeness rather than neediness, from strength rather than desperation. When you're emotionally detached, you can care about someone's well-being without needing to control their choices. You can want the best for them without needing to be part of their definition of best. You can appreciate the good times you shared without being unable to accept that those times have ended. You can acknowledge the love you felt without being trapped by it. Detachment allows you to see people clearly without the distortion of your own needs and expectations. You can recognize their flaws without taking them personally. You can appreciate their strengths without becoming dependent on them for your own sense of worth. You can love them for who they are while accepting that who they are might not be compatible with who you are or what you need in a relationship. This kind of love is actually more pure and more powerful than attachment-based love because it's not contaminated by fear, control, or self-interest. It's love that wants nothing in return, love that remains steady regardless of circumstances, love that exists independent of outcome. The eighth lesson focuses on the power of redirecting your energy toward your own growth and healing. Every moment you spend analyzing their behavior, checking their social media, wondering what they're doing or who they're with, replaying conversations in your mind, or imagining scenarios where things work out differently, is energy that could be invested in your own evolution. Think about the mental and emotional energy you've been putting into this situation. Consider the hours spent thinking about them, talking about them with friends, or trying to figure out how to fix things. Imagine if all of that energy was redirected toward developing your talents, pursuing your goals, healing your wounds, or building relationships with people who are emotionally available and genuinely interested in knowing and supporting you. The person you're struggling to let go of has become a distraction from your own life. They've become so central to your mental landscape that you've forgotten about your dreams, your potential, and your own journey of becoming. You've put your growth on hold while you wait for them to choose you, understand you, or come back to you. But your life is happening now. Your opportunities are presenting themselves now. Your capacity for joy, creativity, and connection exists now, not in some imaginary future where this person finally gives you what you've been seeking from them. Every day you spend focused on someone who isn't focused on you is a day you're not available to receive the blessings, opportunities, and connections that are trying to make their way into your life. The practice of redirecting your energy isn't just about keeping yourself busy or distracted. It's about remembering who you were before this person became so central to your identity and emotional well-being. It's about reconnecting with your own interests, passions, and goals. It's about investing in relationships with people who reciprocate your energy and enthusiasm. As you begin to redirect your focus, you'll discover something amazing. The less available you are to drama, confusion, and one-sided connections, the more available you become to peace, clarity, and mutually fulfilling relationships. The space that was once occupied by anxiety, hope, and disappointment gets filled with creativity, self-discovery, and genuine contentment. The ninth lesson involves learning to see rejection as protection rather than punishment. This perspective shift is perhaps one of the most healing realizations you can have. When someone doesn't choose you, doesn't fight for you, doesn't prioritize you, or walks away from your connection, your instinct is to feel rejected, abandoned, or dismissed. You interpret their choice as evidence that something is wrong with you. But what if their lack of enthusiasm for your connection is actually the universe protecting you from a relationship that would ultimately drain your energy, compromise your values, or prevent you from finding someone who's genuinely excited about being with you? What if their inability to see your worth is keeping you available for someone who will not only see it, but celebrate it? I've learned that the right people for your life don't require convincing. They don't need to be persuaded of your value or talked into treating you well. They don't make you question your worth or wonder where you stand. The right connections feel natural, reciprocal, and life-giving rather than exhausting, confusing, or depleting. When someone struggles to choose you, shows inconsistent interest, or seems unsure about your value, they're giving you crucial information about their capacity to love and be loved at this point in their journey. They're showing you that they're not in a space to recognize and nurture the kind of connection you're offering. This doesn't make them bad people, but does make them wrong for you right now. And their wrongness for you is actually a gift. Even though it doesn't feel like one in the moment, it's clearing the path for someone who will be certain about you, excited about you, and ready to build something meaningful with you. Every person who doesn't choose you is making space in your life for someone who will. Every relationship that doesn't work out is teaching you more about what you actually need and want in a partnership. Every disappointment is redirecting you towards something better aligned with your truth. The 10th lesson brings us to perhaps the most profound realization. Letting go is not about forgetting or erasing someone from your memory. It's about changing your relationship with the memories, experiences, and emotions connected to them. You don't have to pretend that what you shared wasn't meaningful, or that the love you felt wasn't real in order to move forward. The goal of emotional detachment isn't to become someone who was never touched by this connection or never changed by this experience. The goal is to integrate what happened into your story in a way that empowers rather than imprisons you. It's to extract the wisdom, the growth, and the expanded capacity for love that this relationship gave you while releasing the pain, the attachment, and the need for things to be different than they are. You can honor what was beautiful about your connection while accepting that it has served its purpose in your life. You can feel grateful for the ways they help you grow, discover new parts of yourself, or experience deeper levels of feeling while simultaneously recognizing that growth and discovery can now continue without them being present. Letting go is a process of alchemical transformation. You take the raw material of your pain, disappointment, and attachment and transform it into wisdom, compassion, and strength. You take the love you felt for them and redirect it toward yourself, toward people who are present and available, and toward the larger vision of the life you want to create. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's not a decision you make once and then never revisit. It's a practice, a daily choice to focus on what serves your highest good rather than what feeds your attachment to outcomes you cannot control. Some days will be easier than others. Some moments you'll feel completely free, and others you might find yourself missing them or wondering what they're doing. But each time you choose your peace over your attachment, your growth over your comfort zone, and your future over your past, you're building the emotional muscles that will serve you for the rest of your life. You're developing the capacity to love without losing yourself, to care without becoming dependent, and to form connections that enhance rather than complete you.